Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are listening to the Postcast presented by the Locked On Senators podcast and, of course, our friends over at the Glebe Central Pub. You guys know the Glebe Central Pub is our pub in the nation's capital. Check them out at 779 Bank Street. Check out the Sens shuttle for Sens home games. The bus gets you to the game and brings you back, all for $17 round trip. Go check out the website to see what games are available. It's the GCP, 779 Bank Street. I'm your host, Brandon Pillar, joined by Lalime's Martian and Jack Richardson. And this is a tough one. This is a bit of a change of pace here, as this will likely be a vent cast as your Ottawa Senators lose 3-2 in regulation to the Buffalo Sabres. You heard that right. For the third time this season, the Ottawa Senators cannot beat the worst team in the Atlantic Division, the worst team in the Eastern Conference, and this should have been 2 points, Martian, where the Sens should have just taken care of business and been on their way to Detroit. What a crap way to start off the dad's trip.
Yeah, the poor dads, they got left in the dust here on this one, Pilsy. This is not a good hockey game from the Ottawa Senators, and if you're a playoff team, you should be able to handle the Buffalo Sabres any given night, but no, the Ottawa Senators somehow found a way to lose them 3 times already this season. And this one especially stings because that's an important 2 points in the standings here. It looks like Montreal is losing right now, so that's the silver lining we're looking at. But at the same time, they're like leading the league in third period comebacks, I'm pretty sure. So, man, with the Sens here, they just gotta find a way to win this one. I don't know what happened. They just weren't burying their chances, and Forsberg didn't play a good game. So it was ugly from start to finish almost.
Yeah, I think we could play the blame game in a couple spots here. But, Jack, how you feeling after this one?
What makes it worse for me, boys, is that they played very, very well for the most part of this game, right? That first period, for the first 15, 16 minutes of it, they were dominating. It felt like it was going to be a rout. They score early on the power play. Zetterlund, Stützle, Tkachuk get like 5 chances. Like I thought it was going to be point night. I really did. And I've said this before on the Postcast after a game against the Buffalo Sabres 2 months ago, that it felt like point night for the team too, probably. And I think they might have thought the same thing because for whatever reason, the Buffalo Sabres, like you said, Pilsy, the worst team in the Eastern Conference in the Atlantic Division, have the Sens number this season. It's one thing against Montreal, who's a team right with you. They're a good team this season. Buffalo's terrible. Buffalo sucks. They have no depth. They have nothing. Josh Norris, the guy who is now their second-line center, wasn't playing for the 6th straight game. They have nothing, and they once again beat the Ottawa Senators. Just a really tough one to swallow in such a critical time of year, but that's a really tough one. And I think, to me, personally, it makes it worse because they played so well at the beginning. It looked like they had this game under control for the most part of this game.
Would you guys say the main plot of this loss is the 5-on-5 play? Because they look great on the power play. They go 2 for 4, 50% on the power play. I don't know about you guys, but when they scored that first power play goal, I was laughing. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a fun one. We're going to have a point night. The boys are going to get going. Dylan Cousins already gets a point up against his former team. Batherson with a beautiful deceptive tip play to hit Brady backdoor. And that's one of the easiest goals Brady Tkachuk's going to score right in his office. Like, Martian, was that the vibe you had when that game starts and that goal goes in like that? Like, did you think this was going to be an absolute rout, or did you kind of were a little more cautious than I was there?
Yeah, no, I was right with you, Pills, for sure. I mean, anytime you score 1 minute and 30 seconds into a hockey game on the power play with Brady Tkachuk, your captain, leading the way and setting the tone in the game, you expect that it's kind of going to be that way for the rest of the night. And for whatever reason, they just, I don't know if they took their foot off the gas or they started taking the Sabres for granted a little bit, but the Sabres didn't go away, and you got to give them a little bit of credit too for just being a little bit of a tougher team to play against than you kind of expect. But they don't have the deepest lineup ever either. So, I mean, Ottawa's got to just be able to bear down. And I think they tried at times. I mean, that, like you said, that Zetterlund, Stützle, Kachuk line, they had plenty of good chances. Zetterlund especially had like 2 or 3 good shooting opportunities on one shift at one point in the first period that could have easily gone in the back of the net. But then, you look at the other end of the ice, and at the same time, I mean, Buffalo had, a squeaker that went off the post that Shabbat ended up pulling off the goal line. That could have easily been a goal. Like, Forsberg didn't stop that one, in my opinion, even though he got a little piece of it to make it hit the post. And then they had a disallowed goal on an offside. So, it could have been 3-1 Sabres after the first period there. So they kind of got away with it a little bit. I don't know what ended up happening there with this team, but they kind of maybe just got off to that hot start and then got a little too cocky. And that's maybe what happened. I'm really not sure, Pills. I can't explain it. It's inexplicable.
It's a tough one. We're going to do our best here. But, Jack, I know the 5-on-5 play was a big part of why this game broke down. In your opinion, where was it for 5-on-5 that the Sens just couldn't capitalize? In their own zone, the neutral zone, the O zone? Like, for you, what of the 3 zones even strength were you like, why can they not get it done tonight?
I really did think, Pilsy, that the top 6 in general, specifically the top line, was fantastic for the most part. I mean, they didn't score, but we talked last week when they lost to Montreal that Stützle needed to be better. Kachuk was a bit of a ghost, wasn't feeling his best, and I thought those 2 looked unbelievable tonight, to be honest. Like, I know they didn't score and they get the power play goal from Kachuk, but at 5-on-5 they didn't score. Zetterlund has a ton of chances, but I'll take that from them any day of the week, even though it's the Sabres. That's what they're supposed to do, and they did it. They just didn't score. And when that happens, I'm looking right at the rest of the lineup and what are they doing on their shifts. I thought Perron, Cousins, and Batherson had some zone time, maybe not their most dominant game, but for the most part, I thought they were okay. The rest of the forward group to me was pretty pedestrian. I didn't like what I saw from Pinto at even strength. I didn't like what I saw from Greg and Giroux either at even strength. The fourth line was non-existent. And then you go down to the defense, the bottom pairing got caved in against the Buffalo Sabres. So that's where I'm looking in a game like this. I know that they lose 3-2. You only score 2 goals. Maybe you look to the top guys. You look at Stützle. I don't know how many shots he had. He hit the post early, but probably no shots after that, maybe 1 or 2. Maybe not enough on the surface, the box score of it. But to me, I'm not going to look at the top line and say that they deserve to, that they are the reason they lost this game. Yeah, I would have liked them to score a couple and bury them, but more times than not, they will. And to me, it's just that bottom 6. I didn't feel like they continued the momentum that the top 6 was generating at 5-on-5. And that's where the problem is for me. And against a team like Buffalo on the road, you need your bottom 6 to be studs. And that's what they've been in these wins we've seen in March, but they just weren't tonight. I didn't think they had it. Specifically that fourth line. Like it was almost a nothing shift. Like Gaudette, Highmore, and even Amadio. I didn't notice Amadio enough tonight either, except for that one chance he had. So that's kind of where I stand. I don't know about you, Martian. Did you feel the same way just about that bottom 9 forward group? I just didn't like the makeup of it tonight.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just the makeup or just they're just not producing, right? It's like you look at a guy like Shane Pinto, and he's pointless in his last 5 games, and it just shows you what this team looks like when, the top line's buzzing, but not getting the points that they should, deserve after dominating their play for the most part. But then you go down the lineup and you look at Shane Pinto, and this just shows you what a team with no secondary scoring is going to look like, and you can hope and pray for power plays all you want, and their power play actually looked pretty sick tonight, I'm not going to lie, but everything else, you got to generate some offense elsewhere, and they just weren't able to do that. And I know Pinto's trying out there for sure, but he's cold right now, and we need him to be good. And Ridley Gregg took a little bump in the middle of the game there. I'm not sure if that affected him. He blocked that shot. It looked like it hurt, and he went down the tunnel for a minute. But, those guys are guys who you're looking at, and you need a little bit of extra of that 5-on-5 production out of. You got to generate something, create some momentum somehow. I would have loved to see somebody drop the mitts tonight and just get in a scrap, just to be like, hey, boys, wake up. We're in a hockey game here. This is the NHL. No team's going to be an easy win here. I don't care if it's the Buffalo Sabres. Do something. Big hit, fight, whatever you need to do. Rub some guy's face in, or take an egregious penalty and try to hurt someone and create some kind of buzz in the game, some emotion in it, because you kind of just played into the Buffalo Sabres, where they've got nothing to play for. They're a zombie of a team when it comes down to like how they play in the rest of the season. So just like wake up your own group and say, hey boys, like we can't play down. This is what the Sens do. They play down to these teams. And I don't like watching it when they do that because it's going to be a different story in the playoff because everybody's going to be, up and ready to go for that. But you can't be giving away points to the Buffalo Sabres like this. You got to find a way to find some emotion somewhere in this hockey game, and they just can't do it. They weren't able to do it again tonight. So it's a bad pattern that I've seen for the rest from this season so far.
Yeah, no, I think you made a bunch of good points there, Martian, and the chat is lighting up with one common denominator when it comes to blame, and it's Travis Hamonic. Like, I mean, look, I know he's liked in the locker room. Obviously, Travis Green sees something in him analytically or eye test that no one else can explain or see. Like that's just the truth. And he's on the ice for 2 of those goals. And in particular, the game-winning goal, I didn't like his decision-making there. Like the puck's behind the net. Fabian Zetterlund is all over Zach Benson. Like that's a battle you expect Zetterlund to win when it comes to strength. Like neither of those guys necessarily tall guys, but Zetterlund's got the strength for sure in that one. He doesn't win the battle, unfortunately, and Benson's able to get it out front. But like Hamonic, you got to trust that your guy's going to win that battle and maybe cover the best player on the Buffalo Sabres out front in Tage Thompson, rather than trying to go behind the net and then kind of lay your stick down there. Like it's just too easy. And I mean, Clevin could have played that a little harder too. He was also right out front, and he should have at least tried to get an angle on Thompson to make it more difficult there. But Martian, you talk about like ways to get some juice in this lineup. Like I thought that could have been a good opportunity to get Gilbert in there up against his old team, bring some physicality. Yeah. Or why are we taking Nicholas Matin-Palo, a right-hand shot guy that plays very well on a third pair with Tyler Clevin? They have chemistry going back to their days in Belleville. They have chemistry together in the NHL. I know it's the easy, low-hanging fruit to blame Hamonic every game, but when there's glaring mistakes like that and you have other options, I think it's a point that needs to be made.
Yeah, it absolutely needs to be made. And I think we actually do a pretty good job of taking it fairly easy on Travis Hamonic on the postcast, I think, for the most part. I know people on Twitter are all over him. I tend to get on him occasionally. I think I get actually a good amount of trouble for not getting on him enough, which says a lot because I kind of just speak my mind for the most part on Twitter. But Travis Hamonic just isn't playing well at all. And I don't know what Travis Green is seeing in him. And I know Matin-Palo hasn't been especially outstanding out there since the Four Nations. Like him and Clevin have just been a solid third pair, in my opinion. They do their job out there. But when you have Travis Hamonic out there, it's just like brain fart after brain fart after brain fart. And this is a guy who's been in the league so long. These mistakes shouldn't be things that just happen to him all the time. He should naturally know where to go and just be in position at all times. And it's amazing he's made it this far with the amount of mistakes that he actually makes out there. And I know it's dad's night and he's got his brother in there, standing in for his old man, which is great. And it's just like, the father's night. I don't know if maybe Matin-Palo's dad didn't make the trip or something, and they wanted to make sure that, Travis Hamonic's brother got a chance to see him play. I'm really not sure what the deal. And at this point, you can't be making those kind of, casualties on this. But, with Hamonic, he's just causing too many breakdowns from all of our liking, I would say. And then to your point with Gilbert, look at Gilbert. Look at what JBD did tonight against his former team. JBD goes out there, gets a goal against the Sens, which good for him. I'm actually really happy for the guy. I didn't think he really got a fair shake in Ottawa, even though he had several chances to kind of prove himself and never really did. We know JBD is probably going to end up being a pretty solid defenseman, nothing crazy, but he's going to be all right. And, you could put in a guy like Gilbert, who's another big body who can do some damage out there. And this team just gave up on him. He's a Buffalo guy. It's his hometown. Let's just get this guy in the lineup here and see what he's able to do. And because, you're making sacrifices elsewhere all over the lineup. Even just by starting your backup Tendy against Buffalo, it's showing them a little bit of disrespect. So why don't you throw in a guy who's not really getting a ton of games and probably doesn't expect to get many games in the playoffs either? Toss him in there and see what happens here against the Sabres. So I think this is one of the few nights where I've really questioned Travis Green's decision-making when it comes to his lineup.
Martian, I like that you brought up JBD there because, yeah, he obviously scores the second goal to tie the game, which I think really didn't need to happen. I do feel that if the Sens could get to 2-1 in that third period, they find a way to close it out and maybe just give Buffalo nothing. But that goal that shouldn't have gone in on Forsberg, that's a save you got to make. Top of the circle with a wrist shot, like you got to have that one. But I like that you mentioned JBD because you mentioned he didn't get a fair shake here. Why didn't he get a fair shake here? Because of Hamonic. He had every opportunity to get in the lineup.
Good point.
He got hurt, and yeah, Matt and Paolo came up, but there was never a doubt in any Sens fan mind that JBD was a better player than Travis Hamonic. And now look what just happened. Like, I'm not saying that, they would have been better off or been a Stanley Cup contender with JBD and not Travis Hamonic, but he got blocked out of the lineup because of Hamonic, who has not been good enough this season. He's not physical enough, and he's not good enough with the puck. So what do you give us? What do you provide for the Ottawa Senators? And to me, it just boils down to, there's two guys, right? It's Hamonic and Forsberg tonight that a lot of fans are pointing at as a reason they didn't win this game. And I know I mentioned the bottom six, but that's on the back burner for me in terms of the grand scheme. It's two guys from the era of the Sens that were just not as good as they are now, right?
We're trying to move past that era.
Exactly. And I think that that's what stings the most is these important games where you're kind of solidified right now at the top of the wild card race. You had such a great opportunity based on the out of town scoreboard. Just get a little bit more separation. Maybe we're not just playing to clinch a playoff spot here. You're trying to get some games for your captain to rest because we know he's hurt. Nick Jensen's been battling something for half the season. He gets back. I thought he looked okay tonight. But you're now playing not just to clinch a playoff spot, but to give yourself some kind of leg room by the end of the season so that you're not limping into game 83, as I like to call it, or game 1 in the playoffs. I'm at the point now, boys. And again, Martian, you mentioned that Travis Green's decisions have maybe made you a little bit skeptical. I'm a little bit worried he might start game 1 of the playoffs if they were to start. Like, are we at that point now? Like, why have they kept prioritizing him over Matt and Paolo when everything points to him being better? It's not even the fact that Hamonic is not as good of a defenseman as Matt and Paolo. Look at Clevin specifically. All the numbers point to Clevin himself being way better when he's got Matt and Paolo beside him, I believe, or it feels that way anyway. So it just makes no sense. It makes no sense. Maybe this was just to throw him in a couple games, but I know they scratched him a couple weeks ago during the win streak for a couple games. But it's just frustrating. It's frustrating when A, they do it, and B, it ends up costing them. He cost them in the Montreal game, even though he scored, Pilsy. I know we were excited to talk about the Travis Hamonic game 1-1, but he also was a -2 in the third period, even though he scored a goal. So that's what's frustrating. It's just things that seem obvious, that have seemed obvious for a long time, coming to bite them in, what is it, game 70 tonight? It's tough that it happens at this point in the season.
Yeah, frustrating, tough questions. Like, these are all descriptive words to try to figure out how the Ottawa Senators found themselves losing 3-2 to the Buffalo Sabres yet again for the third straight time this season, losing to the Sabres. We're going to get into the decision to start Forsey instead of Allmark after the break, right after we hear about our friends over at the Glebe Central Pub. You guys know the Glebe Central Pub is the official pub of the Postcast. We couldn't do this without their support. We appreciate them, and you got to check out the Glebe Central Pub at 779 Bank Street. They're our pub when we go to Ottawa. They love Sens fans so much. They're trying to get you to games faster, cheaper, and all together. The vibes are awesome on the Sens shuttle. Both Martian and Jack have been on the bus. They bring the vibes every time. $17 round trip. You can't beat that. Go to the Glebe Central Pub website and check out what dates are available for the remainder of the home games in the season. And even when it's not Sens focused, GCP is an awesome bar. Great food, great drinks. The serving staff, the bartenders, the kitchen staff, the owner, absolute beauties. So check it out, guys. The Glebe Central Pub. The vibes are free at the GCP. This episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. You guys know me. I'm Pistachio Pillsy these days. I love pistachios, and so should you. They're not called decent pistachios or okay pistachios. They're wonderful pistachios. They're delicious and nutritious. So crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. They're one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep fuller for longer. I love the salt and pepper flavor, the chili flavor is a new one I'm getting into, but if you don't want to deal with the shells, they got a no-shell variety, and it's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. Whatever your kind of pistachio is, it's always wonderful. Get snackin' and get crackin' with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit Wonderful Pistachios to learn more. Oh boy, here we are. A 3-2 loss to the Buffalo Sabres. Let's take a look. I'm Brandon Pillar here with Lalime's Martian, Jack Richardson. Let's take a look here quickly at the game recap stats, guys. The Ottawa Senators lose 3-2. They outshoot the Sabres 32-24. The power play goes 2 for 4, 50%. The Sabres 0 for 1. The face-offs, the Senators win 70.9 to the Sabres 29.1. Blocks 14 for the Sens, 18 for the Sabres. They out-hit the Sabres 25-16. And the 5-on-5 expected goal percentage. I know we were getting on them for 5-on-5, but analytically, 5-on-5 expected goals percentage, the Ottawa Senators was 64.3 to the Sabres 35.7. Boys, when you look at those stats, Jack, I'll come to you. You're shaking your head here. How do you look at those and look at that box score and then look at the top and see the Sens losing that? Do you have any sort of way to explain this one?
Yeah, goaltending. And
All
I don't
right.
think they got goalied by any means. They definitely carried most of the play. Reimer was great, but I don't think he made any saves where you're like, wow, that should have gone in. I don't think anyway. Forsberg wasn't good enough again. And how many times have we said that this season? I think Ross said it perfectly. I think he tweeted it that he's either excellent or terrible. There's no in between with him this season and the last few years. So again, is Forsberg a guy you trust if Ullmark goes down in the playoffs? No. Right now, I'd say a convincingly no. So it's difficult because I think he was great against Colorado when he came in relief. And he's had some moments. He was good in the third period against Philadelphia, earned himself the win. I know he got hot with a little bit of a 4-5 in his last starts, even though it was stretched over like a month and a half with the Four Nations break. But that has to be the answer to me. He didn't get good goaltending. He makes a nice save early in the third period when it's 2-2. They keep the play going in the offensive zone, and then a squeaker goes in by Thompson, on the ice right through him, and that just can't go in. And the JBD one just can't go in. I'm not going to fault him on the first one, but I find every time Anton Forsberg's in net, we have to look at every goal and say, you know what, he probably didn't have a chance on that one, or you know what, he should have had that one. And that's an issue, especially when you got Linus Ullmark playing the way he has this season for the most part. It's frustrating. The drop-off in goaltending for the Sens has been a bit of an issue. And it is an issue, too, that you can't rely on Forsberg now. I know a lot of people are saying they should have started Ullmark, but you can't start him every game down the stretch. They got to give Forsberg some touches, right? So, Martian, what do you think about Forsberg tonight? I know that I think we were a bit surprised maybe in the postcast chat that Ullmark didn't get the start tonight. But again, you look back at it at the schedule, this is probably one you would have said, sure, you can have that one.
Yeah, probably. But I agree, Jack. He was bad. He was just bad. And I don't know. I think if you probably take Forsberg out of the equation tonight and you end up putting Ullmark in net there, the Sens probably win this game 2-1, which I don't think instills that much more confidence in everybody as fans. But at the same time, it gets you the 2 points that you need to get down there and clinch this spot. So, I don't know. I think, if you look on the schedule, Buffalo, in theory, that's a team you can probably put your backup in against. But the games are so spaced out. I still don't get the argument. I know you can't start Ullmark every game, but he should be playing the majority of them, especially right now. And then once you clinch, who cares? You can rest him a little bit at that point. But right now, these points are super important. And if you can give yourself an additional edge on a team that you think you can beat anyways by playing your starting goalie, I think you should probably just do that. Get your 2 points and, head on to Detroit and probably do the same thing with them. I know you want to probably get your backup a couple touches here and there, but I just think that these games are too important to do that. It's the same thing. You make the argument oh, maybe they should rest Brady Tkachuk because he's got a little lingering issue going on with his hip or whatever the problem is. And you could rest him out a game, but at the same time, if you're Brady Tkachuk, you're like, no, I want to play these games because I want to help the team win here. And I think Ullmark should be doing the same thing and be like, no, don't worry, let me have this one. I'm going to take care of business here. We're going to get out of here with 2 points, and nobody's going to be able to walk away from this game saying we lost because of goaltending.
Now, Ullmark hasn't been able to beat the Sabres this year either.
True.
Just quick pointing that out. And you guys know me. I'm always going to lean towards the goalies. I'm not about to say Forsey played good or even that he played okay. He didn't play good enough. He had maybe 2 big saves, that glove save and then the toe save. But I'm putting this one more on the offense for the Ottawa Senators. Like, again, the Ottawa Senators can't score more than 2 goals up against this Buffalo Sabres team. They got none one game. They got 1 another game and 2 this game. Boys, the Buffalo Sabres are 4th in the league in goals against per game behind the Sharks, Blackhawks, and Penguins. That's it. 3.52 goals against per game they allow. And the Ottawa Senators have 3 goals against them in 3 games. They're averaging 1 goal against this Buffalo Sabres team. Like, for me, it's simply not acceptable. The boys got to look in the mirror. I agree with you, Jack. I thought the top line played good, so I'm not going to get on them. They just weren't able to score. The power play was good too, but 5-on-5, you got to find ways to score more than 3 goals in 3 games against one of the worst teams in the league. So that's the thing. We don't want to do this, but this was a game where we all can pass the baton and point fingers and blame different people, and all of them can be good arguments, unfortunately.
I'm with you. Yeah, like I'm with you. Like, it's hard. You can blame both of it, right? They didn't score enough, but Forsberg was not good enough. Like, when you have a 1-0 lead and a 2-1 lead, you need your goalie to do it. I mean, how many times have we said Ullmark is better when they have a lead? All the time, right? I know that against Montreal that wasn't the case, but against New Jersey, look at that third period against New Jersey. That's an Ullmark game, and to not go back to him after that one is tough. And I just looked at the schedule, Martian, after I mentioned that you got to give Ullmark a rest here. Forsberg's going to play. They got a back-to-back this weekend. They got Columbus Saturday, Pittsburgh Sunday. Forsberg's getting one of those games. And then the next weekend, they got the same thing. They got, I forget who, but then Columbus on the second half of the back-to-back. So you got to think Ullmark's getting both of those Columbus games just based on the standings, I'd hope. So Forsberg is going to play again relatively soon a couple times. So I'm kind of with you. I wish they didn't give him that one. But if it was going to be a thing 2-2, you give him this one because you want Ullmark in against Detroit and you want Ullmark in against Columbus. I
wanted them to put Forsey in against Colorado. I think that would have been the one that made more sense. The Western Conference team that's miles ahead of you. I think I'm with you, Martian. I think if Ullmark starts this game, sure, does it change the team offensively? No, but I think you're able to stop 1 or even 2 of those goals and you can squeak a 2-1 win. Or at the very least, my God, it's pathetic to be hoping to get to overtime and get a loser point here. But at the very least, I think you bring it past regulation. And that's where we're at, unfortunately, with this team is we're nitpicking things like this up against a last place in the conference team. We're going to get a boots on the ground report from our guy, Clark Tyler. He's been a Sens Central citizen. He was at the game. If you guys saw on Twitter, he was rocking the Sens Dylan Cousin jersey in Buffalo. So here he is now. Let's bring on our guy, Clark.
What's going on?
Clark, buddy, tough game for you to be boots on the ground in Buffalo. How you feeling, buddy? You just crossed the border back onto Canadian soil, but probably with a sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah, a little sour, especially wearing the Cousins jersey. Not too fun. I got a few little notified people saying like a few trips here and there, but I mean the minute and a half, the vibes were high going into that game, but after that, it just seemed like it was a lackluster performance.
Now, when the Sens started off hot and got that power play goal, we were talking that it seemed like this game was going to go the Ottawa Senators' way. What was your vibe when they get that goal and get the game started off like that?
I thought it was going to be finally a different result or game from what we usually play against Buffalo, where it's always those boring, low-scoring games. Sens are finally coming alive. Might be a bit of a 4-1, 5-1 game, but just seemed like get together 5-on-5. Pucks weren't bouncing their way, and it didn't seem like they were hot to the puck. 5-on-5 wasn't a lot of urgency. It seemed like that second line was asleep. I would like to say I expect a bit more of him coming back to Buffalo. The first line was playing really well. Third line, Pinto's kind of been, absent, but it's. I think I'm being a bit more critical based on the loss out of all of it, but just disappointing overall, the 5-on-5 play, and especially I looked up at the face-offs after the second period. It was like 24-9, I believe, after 2 periods, and they finished off with 35 to, I'm going to say it's like 15, but you'd think the results would be a little bit better. Unfortunately, it was not the case.
No, it wasn't the case. And so when you were looking at the lineup coming in here tonight, Clarky, what did you see what did you think when you saw Anton Forsberg getting the start here in this one? And what did you think of his performance out there tonight?
Well, I saw it's Forsberg. I have Ullmark in fantasy, so I picked up Forsberg for my semifinals, and he let me down in that aspect. But I didn't mind it. I got to give Ullmark a little bit of rest. You got a big stretch coming forward, and I was hoping to see Ullmark, but I'm going to Detroit on Thursday for the game there, so hopefully I'll catch Ullmark in that one. But just kind of, maybe the whole team played down to maybe like, oh, it's a Sabres team. We got a quick goal, and it just didn't seem like they were too urgent or too hot to get anything going afterwards. And Forsberg's had a good stretch here and there, but the team just didn't help him out in front, especially I think it was the JBD goal was on Forsberg, but the third goal, Hamonic was caught swimming there with a stick waving around. I can't see much replay live in rink, but he seemed like he was swimming a little bit.
Clark, I got one more for you. You mentioned that you were getting some chirps from Sabres fans about Dylan Cousins, and we've seen it all online. I think it's ridiculous, but what were some of the things they were saying to you? Was it friendly, or was it actually pretty hostile for a fan base that's going to miss the playoffs for the 14th straight season?
You know what? It was a little mixed. Like, there's a few guys that said, you're real. Like, there's one gentleman right behind us, and he said, nothing but great things about Cousins. It's going to be a great trade. It's going to play out really well for us. And then there's a few guys a couple rows back that were just, once the Sabres had a bit of a lead there, they kind of were a bit more aggressive with their chirps of just saying, 24 sucks, or, Cousins this and Cousins that. And, it comes with the territory of a traded player and all, but unfortunately it's he didn't play the way we were all hoping for tonight in his return. But, I'd say like any Sens fan I saw, they were fired up, and they said it was pretty savage, or they loved it, and good to see it all. Like, it was a freshly printed jersey. I took the chikrin off and put on the Cousins. So I was hoping for a better result, but that jersey might be on IR for a little bit.
No, I love the move, Clark. It's a savage move. Now I'm going to hit you. Yeah, you did. I'm going to hit you with probably the hardest question here. Who is your Sens Central standout of the night, if you have one?
Standout. Honestly, the whole first line was there was one play there. Timmy gained the zone in the second period, and it just seemed like there was absolutely no chance he was coming out with it, right in front of the Sens bench. And he made a great play there. Sandy had some great wheels. It seemed like his vision and plays are sometimes a bit too advanced for some of the other guys at different times. I felt Zoop had a pretty solid game. Shabbat had some good times, but I'd say overall probably Sandy and Stutzla. Maybe I'll toss in DP for the goal there.
All right, Clark not leaving us much to pick from there, but yeah, all those guys had decent games. Clark, thanks for joining us, buddy. Driving home from the game in Buffalo. Absolute beauty, guys. Go check out Clark on Twitter, Canadian_Yeti_. Clark, again, thanks for joining us, and get home safe, buddy.
Thank you. Almost home.
All right. See you.
Cheers, lads.
All right, that was Clark Tyler. Thanks for him for joining us. I love the boots on the ground reports. You get people on the subway, on the road, walking at the rink. And that was kind of a good one for a loss, as it kind of seemed like Clark was trying to hide his identity there, just driving in the dark. But yeah, that's a tough game to go to if you're a Sens fan thinking you're going to go to Buffalo and celebrate a W. We're going to get to our Sens Central standouts right after a quick word from two of our sponsors, like Game Time. I'm sure Clark got his tickets on Game Time. Game Time is the spot to get tickets. That's where I go to get mine. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you're not wasting time searching through thousands of tickets that you don't even want. Don't do that with Game Time. There's so many amazing deals on big matchups, basketball, hockey, whatever you're looking for. They got super deals giving you the best bang for your buck with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. This episode is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, the official online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. March Madness is here, guys, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200, in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters, Cinderella stories, and even who's cutting down the nets when it's done. I love betting on the underdogs, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them. They got spreads, totals, and game props. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. And the FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. Those green numbers, those trophies, hitting the account real quick. So visit FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. All right, guys, Brandon Pillar, joined by Lalime's Martian, Jack Richardson, a postcast after, I can't believe I got to say this again, a 3-2 loss to the Buffalo Sabres, the third loss to the Sabres this season. Jack, Clark mentioned a couple guys there, so we'll leave the table open for us, as this is not going to be an easy one for all of us to have a standout, but who is your Sens Central standout of the night?
Yeah, I'm going to go with David Perron. I think he got that big goal that put them up 2-0 at the time after coming back from getting hit in the head a little bit, which I got to be honest, had me a little bit worried. Just I know Perron has a bit of a concussion history, so wasn't too sure. I think it was a high stick, but he was back and scores a big power play goal, and he's been outstanding recently because I was even going to mention him just in general in the game. He wins every battle, boys, on the boards. It's so impressive to watch, and at this time of year, it's great. And I know that Perron was probably a popular choice for the Sens Central standouts here, but I've really liked his game a lot. And I think his play has really made it, I don't want to say difficult to mix up the lines, but you don't want to break that line up, even though they might not have had their best game analytically or whatever it is. I know Sabres fans will rush to point out Dylan Cousins' flaws for some reason because they're so scarred, but I think Perron was great. I think he was again, and that's the kind of game you want him to be playing, especially in those types of scenarios where they can't find anything. He scores a big goal. They just couldn't, unfortunately, follow it up. So I'm going David Perron. He's been fantastic the last little bit.
Yeah, I like that one. I think you took both Martian and mine picks, but Martian, as the host, I will graciously pass it over to you. Who is your Sens Central standout?
Well, thank you, Pilsy, and that's very gracious of you. And I'm going to be taking your other guy, I'm assuming here. It's the only other goal scorer in the game. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the captain here. I'm going to do it for two postcasts in a row for myself here. It's going to be Brady Tkachuk, who opens the scoring in this game. He had 9 hits out there tonight. Played 1955, 9 shots on goal. And 3 hits for the captain. I thought he played a pretty solid game. He was all over it. That top line was buzzing. So I'll keep it brief there for you, Pilsy. But I think Brady Tkachuk had a pretty great game in front of his old man out there tonight. Keep Tkachuk in the stands. Brady Tkachuk as my standout.
Yep, love it. Great choice, Martian. Look, I'm going to go with Fabian Zetterlund here. I know he didn't capitalize, but he had 5 shots on goal. I think he's really fitting in nicely with Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle. And he had 5 hits. And I know, he loses that puck battle behind the net to Zach Benson, a guy you want to be able to outmuscle if you're Fabian Zetterlund. But other than that, I thought he played a really good game. He was tenacious. He was going for pucks. At the start of the game, he had a really good play where he gets a stick lift, then gets a shot on goal, then gets in a position to receive a pass from Brady and gets another shot. Like, I think this guy, we're going to really see him pushing to get going here. He wants to show Travis Green that elevating him from the 4th line was the right decision, and he's put in a place set up to succeed up beside Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle. So I think we're going to see more games like this with multiple hits and multiple shots for Fabian Zetterlund.
Yeah, I liked his game tonight too. Again, Pilsy, and I think you're right. I think once he gets his first one here, the floodgates are going to open for him. Hey, Jack?
Yeah, I'll just throw Tim Stützle in there too. I think that whole line, specifically, they looked fantastic, like we mentioned earlier. I know we talked about the matchup and how it doesn't really matter unless they actually win the games, but going forward on all those home games against all those bad teams, if they can get that top line buzzing like that, if they play like they did tonight, they're going to score a lot of goals. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with what I saw from them. Better than the other way around, where they lose this game like this and they looked terrible. So they're going to score eventually. Zetterlund, it's only a matter of time, but you really like him to bury on one of those at least, for sure.
Yeah, it's tough, but yeah, I'm not going to blame that top line. Let's take a look at the starred comments here before we land this plane. Justin S. Gaudette looked like he was just skating in circles with zero purpose, as well as Highmore again. What can Staios do to shake up that line to help Amadio? Opinions welcome here, Justin S. Thanks for the comment. Thanks for throwing a couple shekels in the guitar case here. Martian, you got an answer for Justin on this one?
Wait, sorry, I missed that there. Well,
no worries. What can Staios do to shake up that line to help Amadio with Highmore and Gaudette?
I mean, you just gotta wait for Nicky Cousins to come back, I guess, because really they don't have a whole lot of other options. You can maybe possibly bring in Halliday. They tried bringing him up, but right now they've got the bodies in there on that line, so I don't think you're going to see that change too often. So I think that maybe Nick Cousins is the only solution to helping that line get going a little bit. But I actually thought Amadio looked decent out there considering his limited minutes and who he's playing with. So I don't think it's a huge concern, the 4th line. It's more that top 9 tonight. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, there are options. Stephen Halliday, our guy Crooker. So they could be guys that get looks here, but I do believe you're at a point now where you only have a certain amount of call-ups here. So they got to be smart with those. So great question, Justin. We'll see how things look after this loss. Adam Rogers, thanks for the question. He says, who is the other goaltender that we all forgot about? You know that guy, the one that had some shutouts and I think is in the minors? Yeah, I think he's talking about Levi Merilainen. Jack, is there any part of you that thinks this team needs to use that as one of their call-ups?
Yeah, every part of me, Pilsy. I think Levi Merilainen is the reason they're in the position they're in today. Like he saved their season. So I don't know what they have to do, but get him a look. I think it'd be crazy if he doesn't play another game for the Sens at some point this year. I think he's been pretty good in Belleville too, and with all these back-to-backs, big games, I don't know, man. Why not? Just give him a look.
Yeah, if there was no better option, I think we would, we would talk ourselves into being okay with Forsey. But Levi Merilainen has looked amazing when he's been up here. So I totally get the frustration and thinking, hey, what are we doing? Leave him down here. Adam Rogers, call up Merilainen. He's answering it for us here. He says perhaps he can play hero. Yeah, Levy's been a hero, and he just says, I'm just doing my job. He doesn't even make it a big deal or anything crazy. Martian, this one's actually for you. Yeah, exactly. I'm just doing what I have to do, what I'm paid to do. This one's for you, Martian. Justin S. Did the Sabres have cheerleaders on the ice, Martian?
I actually don't know if the Sabres are one of those teams who has the ice girls or not. It was the Devils or something that we played recently that had them. That I was like, oh, that's just it's just
the
nice.
Stars too.
Yeah, it's just good. But I don't. Yeah, the Stars definitely do. They definitely do. There's a bunch of teams that do, and they're all good teams. But I don't know if the Sabres do or not.
Yeah, good teams. They've got them, that's for sure. And then finally, Justin S. again. Can't thank you enough, buddy. Appreciate the generosity and the questions. PD is definitely Send Central's top choice. Man has been pulling the team forward. I assume he means DP, David Perron, not Pierre Dorion. But Justin, let us know if that's the case. But yeah, I do think if he is talking about David Perron, he's really turned things around. And Dylan Cousins gets a lot of praise and a lot of credit for that. Oh, Justin chiming in again, saying, Hamonic, look, there's a seat with your name on it. Yeah. Wouldn't hurt to have him up in the press box for a game or two coming up here. All right, guys. Look, this is a tough one to break down. So let's get our final thoughts here. Jack, final thoughts as we wrap up this postcast.
Quick final thoughts. The Habs got thumped in St. Louis, so that's a good sign for the out-of-town scoreboard. Go Kings, go tonight against the Rangers. And Brady Tkachuk looked healthy tonight. I think that's something I wanted to add to your standout there, Martian. But Tkachuk looked great. So that's a positive. On to the next big game in Detroit. And forget about this one. Just flush the Buffalo Sabres down the toilet and forget about them. But I just hope that these points don't.
They're coming back though, Jack. You can't fully forget about them, unfortunately.
Yeah. We'll forget about them for a week. We'll forget about them for a week.
Martian, final thoughts for you, my friend?
Yeah, Jack kind of just took the words right out of my mouth there. I think, yeah, you just got to burn the tape on this puppy, forget about it, and move right on to the next one here. We're going into Detroit. The dads are still with us. The vibes are going to be all right. Maybe a little bit of Chippewa street action tonight, even though it'd be a nice, the beers always taste better after a win. But, I think the dads got to bring a little levity to the group here. Let them forget about this one and then move on.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to want to repeat this performance, especially with Big Walt around. We know the kind of pull his reputation has, and when he calls out his son's teams, there tends to be a turnaround. So maybe some of that will be happening. We'll see. We love Big Walt. Hopefully, they can turn it around on the road again, up against another Atlantic Division rival in the Detroit Red Wings. Guys, thank you to all 166 of you in the chat. We had 200 going strong for a while. Thanks to our guy, Clark Tyler, for joining for the Boots on the Ground report. Thanks to our sponsors, Glebe Central Pub, Wonderful Pistachios, Game Time, and FanDuel. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast for myself, for the Lalime Martian, for Jack Richardson. This is the Postcast. Let's get some Go Sens Go in the chat here despite that. Let's keep the vibes going high here, guys. It's the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.